Hi friends! This week, I'm going to be trying a reverse coloring book. Recently, a bunch of YouTubers have done videos on this book, and I just happened to have gotten it for Christmas, so I thought, why not? So what's a reverse coloring book? It's a book full of colorful watercolor type pages, and it's up to you to draw the lines. I had quite a few ideas for this, so I'm going to show you just a few of them. The first idea I wanted to try is just to find shapes in the different colors. This is what I've seen a lot of people do. At first, it was a bit of a struggle, and I spent a lot of time staring at the page, just looking for something. I seemed to be mostly looking for animals for some weird reason. But once I let go and just started outlining whatever I saw, it got a little bit easier, and I would see more things the longer that I worked. For the areas where I just couldn't see anything, I just sort of made patterns. Swirls, zigzags, dots, stripes. I worked on this for a while, but I didn't finish it. I can see where this could be relaxing and mindless, but I'm someone who likes to plan, and I wanted something more cohesive. So I needed to try something different. So next, I tried one of the pages that looks a bit more straightforward. There's quite a few pages that look very obviously like flowers, so I picked this one that was sunflowers. Lining this was much easier. There are a few spots where the image isn't quite as clear, like the areas between the flowers. And I did need to look up illustration references for things like the center of the flowers. But the real fun came with adding line variation to the petals. Not only did this help to camouflage any mistakes or weird areas, but it also sort of made the flowers look more alive and purposeful. I left the smaller flowers less detailed to keep the large sunflowers the stars of the page. My only regret is these atrocious leaves. I wish I would have just left them unlined, because none of them match and they just look like an afterthought. Ultimately, I do really like this page, and it was much more relaxing to work on than the previous one. So with that warm-up, I'm going to try a slightly more abstract page, but also go in with a more cohesive plan. I chose this one because to me it looks like fish swimming in a coral reef. It was slightly harder to turn these orange blobs into actual fish shapes. I used a lot of references, but I'm not super thrilled with how they all came out. I think it might be better to stick less with the exact shape of the color and more with the general idea. Again, I used line variation to disguise some of it, but some of these are looking real mutant fish experiment. I'm not even going to dwell on these accidentally, graphically anatomical coral shapes. But just so you're aware, this is what I was going for. The rest of the reef area doesn't look too bad. But again, I think it would be better to not try to stick with the exact outline of the colors. At the end, this was still looking like a bit of a mess to me, so I fattened the outlines on the fish to make them stand out a little bit more. With it done, I don't hate this one. The colors look a bit more desaturated to me now that all the black liner is on there, but at least the picture looks like one piece. So now with what I learned, my next idea was to create a piece with the colors in mind, but mostly ignore the exact placement. So I went with this page. There's 5 main areas of color on it. So I came up with something for each chunk as part of a whole picture. I saw this piece that Little Star Nerd did recently, where she painted swaths of color before block printing over it. I thought it looked so amazing, so with that in mind, I went with a block printing sort of style for the whole piece. I like the roses in the mountains, and I absolutely love the look of the clouds in the sun. But these hills along the center bottom just don't seem to work. I don't know if I just didn't do them as well, or if they just really don't fit with the rest. But I'm pretty happy with this page as a whole. I feel like the colors work well with the lining, and even the areas where the colors overlap don't really look out of place. Next, I wanted to try what I'm calling reverse coloring. Basically, I'm going to use the negative space as opposed to lining the actual color. This page looked like leaves to me, so I used the white space behind it to add branches. It's pretty subtle, and I had to fight my impulse to color the branches in, but I like how intentional it looks. And I feel like it makes the actual colors stand out. For the next page, I combined a couple of ideas that I had. I used the page more as a background instead of the inspiration for the actual piece. And I used white as a liner instead of black. I did have to go pretty thick with the lining to get it to stand out, so this probably wouldn't work well on a page that wasn't full of color. This design is really simple, but I absolutely love how it came out. This might be my favorite. Well, tied with this last page though. For this last one, I went back to another flower page, because this time I wanted to try lining with color. I also stayed a bit looser with the drawing, fitting it into the colors, rather than fitting the colors into the lining. I just used cheap gel pens that I had laying around. I alternated between thick and thin lines to fill the space without it looking too crowded. For the stems, I went even more minimalistic. I wanted the flowers to really stand out, but I didn't want them to look out of place. Because the gel pens that matched the best color-wise happened to be glitter gel pens, the whole page sort of shimmers. I absolutely love how this turned out. So, I did 7 pages. Each is pretty different from one another. Hopefully, at least one of them inspired you. I actually have a few more ideas, so I'll probably do this again in the future. What do you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.